because she is on top of things today. Hello, good morning, Pacific time people. Good afternoon, Eastern time people. Good evening. Is it GMT, British Standard Time? I'm not sure all the acronyms. Australian time, I think you all are at like 3 in the morning or something. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. Welcome, welcome. Just letting the people file into the Zoom. Hi, Nate. You look good. What's up, Adrian? It's nice to see you again. Hello to Nicole. Good. Like, it looks like there's some sunlight coming in on you. Mark in the booth. We love to see it. I'm admitting more people. Yeah. And then Alexis has the cherry blossoms because, some of us, in Brooklyn and in DC, they get real spoiled this time of year. Or if we've got some Japanese folks in the house, I actually have been to Japan during Sakura. And you know what? That was a humble brag. I just did that. I just dropped that little, like, back in the day when I went on adventures. Not anymore. But, maybe someday soon. It is a dawn of hope and possibility this spring, and we are ready for all of those things. Welcome. Okay, so I'm getting my people here. Oh, thank you, Josh. Yes. I will tell you all that I was on FaceTime with my 3-year-old niece, and she loves the dramatic looks, so we were doing makeup over the phone because that's how you hang out with family in 2021. So welcome. Thanks for being here. It's so good to see everybody. What's up, Mercedes? Welcome back. So good to have you all here. Thanks for coming. So, okay, this is our Ask Me Anything session. It is a season. It's just a part of the Edge Studio programming that we've been doing now for 25. This is our 25th session. Would that be a silver anniversary? Is that a silver anniversary?
I don't know if it's silver or what, but it's great.
Oh, I mean, it's one of those special things, right? I think it's really good. And that means that for 50 weeks, we've been organizing these events, 50 weeks of pandemic times here for us at Edge and all of us across the world, and finding ways to gather in person, which is so good. Somebody is asking me for the link, and I'm going to do a little invite. So, okay, thanks everyone for coming. The way we do this is a pretty simple procedure. If this is your first time, welcome. If you can just tell us how you're doing, where you're calling in from. I know calling is weird, but where you're joining us from, let us know in the chat. The chat is where we're going to talk because you all are sadly, of course, on mute. Yes, Morris in Singapore. Yes, Jersey. Hello, Alexis. Yes, Savannah. Oh my gosh, I love Savannah so much. So I'm so happy to see you all. And what else do I want to say? I want to introduce you, if you don't know him yet, my friend, my colleague, the Chief Edge Officer, David Goldberg. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Siobhan. Love the makeup. It's so cool. Siobhan and I were chatting about this for a moment before everyone came in. It is really, really cool. Very
Thank
fun.
you. I like to show up for my VO people, we're so alone so often in our little spaces. It's like before we were in these little squares, we were in these tiny booths. I mean, sometimes you just
Well, so
sometimes
that's great because these little tiny squares make your booth feel so much larger, right?
right. I hope that's the intention, especially those of us with big personalities. So, with that, Nicole, thanks for laughing at my jokes. I really appreciate that. So with that being said, I'm so happy you all are here for 25 sessions. We have run these really chill. I like to keep it in gallery mode so I can see your beautiful faces, but you can also put on speaker mode if you want to blow up my face or David, as he's talking. So the way we're going to do this is just to keep it super orderly, is you just drop any question at all. Voiceover, we're talking about voiceover. We are, I don't know what kind of cook David is, but we're not here to talk about cooking, though he does have a vegetable garden. So we're going to talk about voiceover, and David is also, for those of you who don't know, casting director and audio engineer. So his expertise is in those levels, as he is not a voice actor. But we're here to talk about all things voice acting because David, David has been running Edge Studio for over 30 years, which He's not even 30 years old, so that's crazy. So if you want to drop me any, yes, my name is Siobhan. Forgive me, I may not have even said that. My name is Siobhan, and I am the social media director and community relations human being here at Edge. So we used to host mixers in our studio, and we don't get to do that anymore. So now we're hosting these kind of virtual hangs, if you will, talking about voiceover with David. And this is something we've been offering to the community for the entire pandemic, and it is our pleasure to do so. My personal pleasure to see your beautiful faces every other week during this time that we live in. So yes, bonjour and hello and hello. Okay, we got Uruguay. Great. I'm so happy to see you all. Thank you for spending this hour with us. So let's get right into it. You know, anything you want to ask, you can drop into the chat and I'll feed it over to David. Thank you, Josh. I'm so glad that they've been great. For people who are curious, we are recording this session, so it will be on our YouTube channel and I will post it on the feeds, if you will. A few quick announcements as well. Our specialty class is coming up with Art Bruder. You know him, you love him, he's fabulous. It is a mics and interfaces class. If you don't really know what you're talking about with your mics and interfaces, you don't have to be ashamed. Art is so kind and so good and so loving in his explanation of this kind of information. He is a fabulous instructor and he's really fun, and he's just harmonious to listen to, as you all know. So get in on that, as well as for my new human beings, the Investigate Voiceover class. We can set you up on track with our education program, and I've got a little coupon code for you there for our introductory class in all things voiceover. We also offer private coaching, and we've got a $25 off code, which is simply AMA for any coach at all here at Edge Studio. And you can book a coaching session using that code on these links that I've dropped in, including a session with David. David, have you had some coaching sessions recently?
For myself or giving them? Yeah, I
Giving them
have.
as an
Yeah,
instructor.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things I do.
Why is it one
Most
of
of
your
you know
favorite?
this. I mean, I love working with voice actors and helping them get to the next level. It's very fun.
Okay, yes, thank you, Daniel and David. Yeah, a coaching session with David is awesome and a worthwhile experience indeed. Okay, so I've seen some stuff. Hey, Stu, what is up? If you have some experience and success, what kind of coaching would you first go for? Great question.
Yeah, so it is an interesting question, and it really depends on the person, right? Because everyone defines goals differently, everyone defines success differently. I've had arguments. I rarely have arguments. In fact, exceedingly rarely will I have an argument. But I had an argument with a very, very well-known, respected voice actor who was talking with a bunch of newcomers to the industry and defining success, or essentially she was saying that you need an agent. And I said, I don't, I don't think that that is necessarily the case. And she said, no, no, no. If you want to go all the way in voiceover, you have to have an agent. And I said, look, you've done very well in the commercial world, the commercial voiceover world, and have relied on agents. But I know plenty of voice actors, thousands of them, who are completely satisfied living on a farm somewhere in the corn belt and producing telephony recordings or e-learning and stuff. And so everyone defines success differently. And when you're pumping out documentaries and corporate training videos in e-learning and telephony, you don't necessarily need an agent. So back to this initial question, I can't tell you what kind of coaching is right for you because I don't know what your goals are, where you want to be, how you define success, part-time, full-time, one genre, different genres. You want to improve your rankings, you want to improve your auditions. Some voice actors come to me when they're very well established and say, look, I get a lot of work, but for every job, I'm pumping out 10 auditions and I'd like to make that ratio better. Or I'd like to be able to totally eliminate auditions and have people work off of my demo or my website. Well, that's a very different type of coaching than I would provide to them than someone who says, look, I've done very well in audiobooks, but I'd love to try a new genre like commercials. So I think that you need to really consider what your goals are, where you want to be in 6 months and in a year and 5 years. Um, and then I'm happy to work with you on that and so on. But yeah, I can't answer until I know more. Siobhan, your screen went yellow.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm probably giving you all aneurysms. Let me
Okay.
fix that. Okay. I apologize
I
for
don't think so. I don't think so.
the jolt.
Doesn't I'm looking at everyone's face. I don't see anyone who looks like they're having an aneurysm at the moment.
Is there a nurse in the house?
Some agita maybes. No.
I need my medical narration people to help us out. So I apologize. My Zoom effects don't always want to. Sometimes my Zoom effects are just overwhelmed by David's presence. So yeah, so what I want to say to that too is it's such a good question. And sometimes you, there's speaking to someone with lots of experience and experience in all the depths of the fields that we work in is a great way to kind of like initiate that first conversation about everything that David is saying, like what your goals are. And, with us at Edge Studio, we have an education advisory team. So you can reach out to us and talk to us about what your goals are before you book a session. And we can make sure you get to where you need to go with someone who can help you with because you're talking about experience and success. We can talk about those strengths that you have, pinpoint your weaknesses, and how we can strengthen those weaknesses based on a coach who fits those needs. So it's really good to think about always being a student, lifelong student. You put that education in your taxes, right? Like training is always part of your taxes. So it's an important muscle to constantly flex. What is up, Mark Fox? What a good name. I feel like Mark Fox, it seems like a stage name, doesn't it? It's
It
really good.
does.
Okay. Yeah, right? So class-wise, is the Investigate voiceover course included as part of the studio training program, or should it be taken separately as a starting point? David, do you want to?
Yeah, it is a completely separate class. And if you're really unsure where you belong, then it's a great place to start because you get to read some scripts for a coach and you get some initial direction. And I think ultimately it's going to open up your eyes and your ears to understanding how much potential there is out there, how many different genres in this industry, because this industry is so much larger than most people know about. So it's a good starting place. You can also call, as Siobhan just mentioned, call and speak with one of our guidance counselors, as we call them, education advisors, and talk with them and lay out, what it is that you want or where you think you want to go. And they may advise you to take the Investigate voiceover class. They may have a different idea for you. So they really help. I mean, seriously, handhold you through the process. So I would give them a call and find out what's best for you, help them. Let them help you figure out what's best for you.
Yeah, and so what the IVO can do if you're looking to train at Edge is also pinpoint you into the direction that we suggest you go within our training program and what kind of demo we think you ought to start out with and that sort of thing. But it can also just provide you with an overview. What it also does, not what it can do, but what it does is provide you with an in-depth overview with a working professional, a full-time voice actor about their experiences, the things you will need to get into, what you'll need to know, and just exactly what you're signing up for when you're looking to initiate the process of starting a voiceover career. So if you are seasoned or if you're already kind of, doing things, you may not need to start out with the IVO. It's really going to depend. But again, you can email us or call us to talk about your personal journey, and we'll let you know what we think would work for you with us. Okay, so I've got Alexander, I think it's Alexander, asking me for auditions, will a click or two embedded in a word that can't be easily removed without an editor app kill your audition? And if yes, do you recommend RX Elements to declick, declip, dehum as a wise investment? Woo!
Yeah, lots of D's. Uh, like everything, it depends. There's really no one way. There's no one answer to that. When you audition for a company, you have to win the most auditions. You need to think ahead and think who is going to cast this. And and sometimes the person who's casting that audition is inexperienced. They may not hear clicks. They may not even know to listen for clicks. They may assume that they're going to send it over to an engineering team who can remove clicks, or they may hear every click because they're experienced or they're listening on a good speaker or a good headset. So you don't know for sure if a click is going to ruin it. I will say a couple of good to think about things, and one is that more than ever these days, voice actors are hired to record from their home studio, right? It was 90% that way, 95% that way pre-COVID, and now it's essentially 100% that way. So in general, the cleaner you're recording, the more likely you are to be hired. And if a client is listening to 10 or any number of multiple auditions, if your recording is clickier or noisier or has more reverb in the background than other auditions that they play, then you have much less chance of winning that audition. So yeah, in general, it's great to get rid of clicks, but if there's one stuck in a word and you can't get rid of it for some reason, or you don't have the editing ability, um, and you think someone possibly less experienced is going to cast it, and time is running out, and you have to submit that audition, then I would submit the audition. That said, RX is terrific software made by Isotope. It really can remove a lot of clicks. However, with the declick programs, sometimes they do really funky, wonky things to your voice. So rather than applying a declick to a long recording, like 30 seconds or a minute, I would apply it to small 5-second chunks or maybe even 10-second chunks, and then listen back really carefully because it is just software. So it may think something is a click when it's actually the letter T, and maybe you need the T but not the click. So just listen back carefully and use it as needed.
Yeah, and I love asking things like this just so everybody's on the same page. David, what is a click? What does that mean?
Oh, wait, I assumed that you meant a mouth click in
Yep.
that question.
Can you tell
Um,
us what a mouth click is for anybody who's unclear?
how's that? I can demonstrate. I'm not even a voice actor, and I can do that. Yeah, I mean, clicks occur. It's just part of mouth noise, right? I mean, we're human beings, and so we get all kinds of odd noises. And the more sensitive microphones become, the more the more clear the clicks are in the recording. And also, these days, more than ever before, most recordings are compressed or normalized, which for technical reasons, I can explain if you want, but that also brings up the level of clicks or that makes them uh, louder compared to the volume of your voice, so they're more apparent. So yeah, ultimately you want to get rid of any mouth noise, clicks, sibilants, popping, loud breaths, and things like that. Oh, and clicks occur for all different reasons. Some people have very clicky mouths just because they have wet mouth. Some people have them because they have dry mouth. Um, People get clicks when they are nervous. They get more mouth clicks. It could be a space between your teeth. It could be dentures. It could be cavities. It could just be the natural way your mouth works, where your tongue hits your palate, and all sorts of things. But it's a I won't say it's an issue in our industry, but it's something that as a voice actor you need to be aware of at all times.
Yeah, it's, like David said, we're humans and we have to deal with this horrible. I mean, it's not horrible, it's just a fact of life, but sometimes you're hearing it and it sounds horrible. And so I'd also say, hold your auditions to a standard, right? Like, don't submit something you're embarrassed
Yeah.
about, right? Like, that's really important. So if you've got to do this RX stuff to figure it out, then we've got some good feedback. And the chat, I love this. Also,
Wait, wait,
yeah,
wait. Sorry, one more thing. And as I said, there are so many variables. Another big variable is where the final recording will be played back. Because if you're recording a commercial that more than likely will have loud sound effects or loud music, then a click way in the background of a word probably will never be heard. So it's possible the casting team will say, yeah, their mouth is a little clicky, but our engineers can remove the clicks or it won't be heard over the music or sound effect. Whereas if you're recording something that probably won't have music and people typically listen on headphones, then those clicks will be super apparent to the listener. So if you're recording a self-guided tour of a museum exhibit, for example, the patron to the museum is walking around with the headset on their ears. So if they hear noises like that, that's kind of nasty, right? Sorry to do that to all of you, but good chance to demonstrate. A casting team at that point might say, yeah, their voice is way too clicky. There is a voice actor that is fantastic in our industry, but he has the clickiest mouth I have ever heard. And he has just learned to accept it. He only records short commercials. I mean, well, any commercial, like 60-second or under. He will not record long narrations. No one will hire him for that because it takes so much processing, so much editing to clean up his voice tracks, but his voice is fantastic and his delivery is great. So he's accepted the fact that this is just the way his mouth works. He can only get hired for very short recordings, and he's made a living by doing by recording very short recordings. And we hire him because to declick him for a 30-second commercial might take 5 minutes, but you multiply that by a 10-hour audiobook, it's just too much editing time. So anyway, there's some more info.
Some more good info. I'm also seeing Nicole, who had a coaching session with Jennifer Sims and highly recommends. Yeah, she's incredible.
He's
It
great. Yeah.
makes a big difference to work with someone who knows what they're talking about to help you get on track. I'm looking at Alexis. This may be a hard question to answer, but regarding rates, here we go. I know Edge has a rate card, and there are other rate cards out there. I'm wondering, how do voice actors set their rates? Do you combine different rate cards with some other information? David, do you want to talk about the process of our rate cards and how we put that together?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because there are a bunch of theories out there on how to charge and how much to charge and when to charge and also when to invoice and all sorts of payment term questions. But look, this is like any business. You have to look what's out there, get a gauge from looking at your competition and figure out what your own time is worth, and then eventually, oh, and understand your own costs, and eventually put together your own rate, right? This is no different than opening up any other business, right, outside of voiceover, whether it be a restaurant or a retail store or an online service. Get the lay of the land, figure out where you want to be. Sometimes charging more can can really attract your clients because they might think that you're that much more experienced and worth the extra dollars. And sometimes charging more can lose you work because you have a client who doesn't want to pay a lot of money or doesn't understand the value that's involved. So there are just so many thoughts that go into this. I will say that our rate card is clearly for someone it's a gauge for someone who's relatively new in the industry and someone who is non-union, and that is written up and down on that main cover page, the main page. Okay, so that's sort of, I would use it as a starting point, but as you become more experienced, then absolutely you can charge more. You should charge more. So I don't know. Yeah, look at all of the different rate cards. Look at your competition. Look at your client. See what kind of budgets they have been dealing with on their ads or their training videos. See if you can figure out which voice actors they've hired in past and then look at those voice actors' rate cards if they are listed on their website. Get some ideas. Sometimes doing some homework can really be very, very revealing.
Yeah, I want to totally highlight that and talk about my friend David, who's here today. We were at a different meeting talking about progress, and he was like, okay, it's gonna go like this. Like, this is your uphill. You're gonna go like this, and so you're gonna start in a place with the intention of always climbing. And voiceover is an uphill climb, but what worth doing isn't uphill. Besides relaxing. For those of us who know how to relaxing should be plateaued, but we're working on that, right? And we're gonna figure that part out. All right, Josh coming in strong with some. David, is it a good idea to set up a sole proprietorship prior to auditioning for jobs? What do you think about this world of contextual information?
Yeah. So most, wh- from my personal experience, most clients couldn't care less what kind of business you are, whether you are a DBA, which is doing business as, an LLC, you are incorporated. A lot of companies really don't care. They just care that you have the right voice and that you can deliver the recording. And that is so true even on the online casting sites, right? Like voice123.com and voices.com and Bodalgo and all the others. So in many applications, it really doesn't make much difference at all. But there are certainly some clients who will feel more comforted knowing that you are set up as a corporation or an LLC rather than like a sole proprietor or a DBA. It's pretty rare, but I've seen those come across from time to time. But I would say, if you are going to set yourself up through the government in any way that's official, then it's not necessary to come up with some clever business name. Um, but do make sure that whatever business name you come up with, you can cash the check at the end of the day. Because I saw a voice actor once who came up with a really interesting and very creative business name, and we had hired we I met this person because we hired them for a job, and then we paid them to that business name, and they said, "Oh, I can't cash a check to that business name." And that's sort of weird, right? If the name of the business is Edge Studio, you should be able to write a check to Edge Studio. Um, so they had not really made all of the bank connections, and then they were not branding themselves as much. They were not branding their business name as much because they're right now they're diluting their business name by sometimes marketing their personal name and sometimes marketing their business name. So keep it all in the house, keep it all together. I think using your name is totally fine. It is nice to be at least an LLC, if not even incorporated, just so you lose the chance of you lose that liability that can come along with being a sole proprietor or a DBA. But I don't know. It's not.
Right.
I don't think it's necessarily critical. That's friendly advice, not legal advice, by the way, for the record.
And my friendly contribution to that is to talk to your accountant and your tax advisor and see what the sitch is. Because it might be that you're not really making enough money for it to make sense for you to pay for, an LLC at this point in your career. And maybe a DBA is better. I mean, just have an honest conversation. We're often like, hey, go to the professionals, but that's because like you won't regret. No one was ever like, "Oh, no, I talked to someone who knew what they were talking about this thing that I knew nothing." And what a waste of time that was, It'll
Yeah,
definitely.
but becoming an LLC is not that expensive. I mean, I guess that is a very subjective word, but uh, becoming an LLC, you can do online. Some of the companies for probably $300. I'd say it's starting at 350, $400 perhaps. You can use a local lawyer and probably get around paying $600 or $700. One knows any less expensive ways to do that, put it into the chat, and that'd be great so everyone else can see it. It's not. It's not terrifically. Whereas incorporating certainly is much more expensive, significantly more and there are some reasons that some voice actors do incorporate, but very seldom is that the case. Usually, most voice actors who I cross, and the thousands of them that I've come across over the years, are either DBAs or LLCs.
Okay, so moving forward, I've got Scott. I have received feedback, he says, that there are breath sounds and or plosives in my demos. How much is too much? It might seem subjective, but I'm new and trying to figure this out.
How much is too much? That's a fun question. That would be like you hiring a photographer and going to their website and looking at their portfolio, and there's just a couple of blurry pictures. How many blurry pictures does a photographer need to sort of get you to say, you know what, I think I'll hire a different photographer? Probably one blurry picture would do it. I don't know. I think that your demo should demonstrate. Let's get sidetracked for a second. Isn't that what demo stands for? A demonstration. So the demo should demonstrate your best work. And being a voice actor, your best work is not just your vocal performance, it's also your vocal sound, your studio quality, because you record from home. So those are the two things that you're conveying and on your demo, the quality of your recording and your vocal performance. And if one is good and the other is not, now that I think is a problem. So it's just remove. I'm not sure who made your demo, but if there are plosives, it's an incredibly easy procedure to remove plosives. You can just EQ the low end out of the demo. If your demo is 60 seconds, I could probably do that in about 63 seconds and have all the plosives gone. And breaths, though, you have to go into the vocal track and remove them. And sometimes you want to keep them, but just lower the breaths. So it depends. I'd have to hear it to know for sure.
I've got a question from Osea saying, I've taken the Investigate voiceover class. What should be my next step? So, Osea, if you haven't heard from an education advisor or would like to, uh, let's make sure that we reach out to you because you should have a discussion about your evaluation and our personal recommendations to you. So, here's my email in the chat. And you can just hit me up via that email, and I'll make sure that someone reaches out to you about your evaluation. So that is my feelings on that. And now I've got all right, I'm scrolling and I see, okay, Nate. I've been doing voiceover for 5 years with fairly good success. What do you recommend in processing? I only deliver raw, clean, limited files, no more. But is that the standard, or what is the recommended standard?
Yeah. So to the question itself, pet peeve, I don't like the word doing. You said I've been doing voiceover. Isn't it much nicer if you're in a crowd and introducing yourself to someone and talking about what it is that you do? Isn't it nice to say I've been recording voiceovers? I've been helping companies sound better. I've been improving the airwaves. I don't know. Doing is such a hard word. I've been narrating commercials and documentaries and corporate videos for businesses. Anyway, in terms of processing, the there's no one set way to define raw audio. We have clients who say raw audio is 100% straight from your mouth to them, meaning breaths, mouth clicks, breaks, bloopers, everything is left in. And then some clients define raw audio sort of at a very different end of the spectrum, saying, well, raw audio would just be no music and sound effect. But of course, we want it compressed and declicked and debreathed and all of that stuff and EQ'd and totally processed. My recommendation is to always ask your client what they want. And if you can get in touch with your client, for example, if it's an online casting site, then I would do it all. I would really process it and I would remove loud breaths, or all breaths are loud breaths, because sometimes it does make sense to leave breaths in, but just at a lower level. I would remove mouth clicks and plosives and sibilants and all that stuff and compress the audio and make sure it sounds good.
If you're new to voiceover and new to all the technology aspects, again, don't panic. It's okay. It's an uphill climb of process to knowing what all these things mean, and you don't have to handle it all at once.
Yeah,
Um,
but the thing is, there's very little in terms of learning, right, Siobhan? I mean, once you get your voice onto a digital track somewhere, then there are really only three or four processes one a voice actor ever has to typically, well, I think maybe just four. There's equalization, which is nothing more than a fancy way of saying boosting the bass, the middle, the treble, and just being able to fine tune it so it sounds good. There's one process that kind of makes your voice at a more constant volume, and that's either called normalization or compression. It's two different ways to do essentially the same thing. There's editing out of mouth clicks and breaths and things of that nature. And then there's just sort of like an overall mastering when you want to make sure everything's at the right level. Those are the key things you're looking at. It's not that much stuff. And you can hire engineers. We have engineers who will show you that will set up a template on your computer for you. And so you don't have to worry about that much. I mean, certainly, oh, and you can even hire people to do it. I know lots of voice actors, a whole lot of voice actors who do the recordings, and either they're not, and I should say this, they record. Oh, I said they do the recordings. There I go with the word do. That's funny. They record their recordings and they send them off to an editor somewhere, and the editor declicks and processes and adds the equalization, and the editor does all of that and sends the recordings back to the voice actor, who then sends it to the client. So you can totally get rid of it if you want. Of course, you're paying for that service, but if you have the money, or you can use that time instead of editing, you can use that time to record more recordings, or do market some more to clients and so on.
I love this conversation. I also love some of the phrasing of Mark's next question. When talking about gear, um, we don't endorse any particular brand. We don't have a partnership with a brand or anything like that. We don't actually even have favorites because we understand that the different things serve different people in different ways. But this question is great because Mark is saying that he's auditioning a bouquet of new mics today with a local pro. What should I be looking or listening for? He's saying that his ears may not be accustomed to the same sounds that engineers are looking for. I love that question. It's great because it's really about what you're looking and listening for when you're shopping your bouquets.
Yeah. So let me ask you an initial question, and depending on your answer, we can continue the conversation or not. Are you auditioning these microphones in your home studio or at their studio? Can you put the answer in the chat? Or is that Mark asking that question? Okay, so I see your
Mark,
thumbs up or thumbs down. So is it at your studio? You're auditioning the mics?
It's here in my booth, yes. And I'll
Good.
be connecting with someone over Source Connect so they can have an ear on it too.
Okay, terrific. Then second thing is make sure that the person who you're connecting with truly understands the VO industry.
They do.
If
Yep. It's a local pro slash engineer.
Okay, are they involved with music recording or just simply voiceover?
As far as I know, just voiceover, but he is in a band, so he might do some music.
Okay, as long as he just reiterating, as long as he really understands the voiceover industry, then
Mhm.
you should be in good hands, good ears.
Yep.
They should know what they're
He
looking
teaches
for.
at a local voiceover
Uh,
school as well, so
yeah,
he's
there are lots of voiceover coaches who have music backgrounds and don't necessarily teach correctly or don't understand all of the different applications in this industry.
mhm.
Um, but if you're recording, so let me just update everyone. So the reason I asked that initial question as to where Mark is recording or auditioning these microphones is because you purchase a microphone based on a bunch of different variables. One being the quality of your voice, another being the type of recordings that you will produce for your clients. But a big part of the microphone selection is it should be based upon the acoustics of your home studio. So if Mark said, "Well, I'm going to a local studio down the road and I'll test out microphones there," well, then I'd say, "Well, what sounds good at their studio may sound equally as good or better or worse at your own home studio." So, Mark, it's great. It sounds like you're doing it in the right way. Um, yeah, what should you listen for? Make sure that if you're a few things. One is if you want to stick with one microphone for all of your recordings, then make sure it's a general uh, make sure the engineer who's listening knows that you will use the same microphone for audiobooks, which sometimes have a more open sound, for recordings that may warrant the listener to be listening on headphones, for listeners who may be listening on car radios because it's more commercial based or TVs. Make sure they understand what kind of applications you will be recording. Um, if you'll get into promos, you want more of a direct sound, and there are lots of variables for different genres. Make sure
Right.
your voice is clear. Make sure it's easy for you to compress. If you are sibilant or plosive or have lots of mouth clicks, then make sure that this microphone doesn't enhance those. That's a real big thing, or at least that you have processing in place that can mitigate them or totally, hopefully, eliminate them. So those, I think, are the key things that come to mind.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. Cool. So again, this is being recorded. So
Oh,
people,
sorry, Mark, and make absolute certain there is absolutely no resonance in in the microphone. So if your booth has untreated walls, right there, in other words, surfaces like walls or ceilings or windows that aren't treated with acoustic fabric of some sort, then make sure that the microphone is not picking up any of the echo that's bouncing around. That's really important.
okay, awesome. Woo, good. All right, I hope everybody found that useful. I like it when we have to do a little talk back happening here, Q&A. And again, this is being recorded, so you can refer to this because this is great information about what to do when you are shopping for your mics. So I had a question up here that was about, we're going back to the raw questions and the raw concepts. So this is from Lorena. For auditions, if they ask for a raw audio file, can I normalize it and would that still be called raw?
You can normalize it, and like I said, some clients define raw audio as have been normalized, and some say no, it should not be normalized. So if you don't know, if you can't ask the client, I would normalize it.
Awesome. Perfect. Great. Short. We love a succinct response. Okay. So yes, I love this. The French press. People are appreciating my French press because I'm in a studio apartment. So you're just gonna see. I'm like, what part of my room should I show them? The coffee, obviously. That's for Dana too, because that's my coffee buddy over there. um, we also have people hopefully not drinking coffee because they are in Scotland. Daniel, I to you, my friend. Gosh, I do miss the accent. I miss the vibe. The Scottish people are the nicest people. Everyone needs to go. That was a generalization. I'm sure some of you are mean. I was just wondering, he says, what your experience of the initial marketing email should be. Content, do you have any templates? This is a conversation we've talked a lot about. And David, can you just give us your kind of crash course on your pitch emails? What I think what Daniel is talking about was when you reach out to clients about why they should hire you, right? So David, can you just give us a little primer on that?
Yeah. Um, I will repeat sort of an analogy that I've used a few times, and I sort of like it, and I think it's very telling. So the analogy goes like this: you're home, and every day in the mail, you get a pizza flyer, and every day you throw those pizza flyers out because how many do you realistically need? So what would cause you to hold on to a pizza flyer? What would it have to do for you to say, well, this one is interesting. I think I'll save this in my files. And maybe I don't need this type of pizza right now, but I'll save it because if I ever do need this type of pizza, then I'll know to call upon them. Think about that. Like, why would you save one pizza flyer over the multitude of them you get every week in your mailbox, right? It's got to be that pizza flyer that offers something unique, something different. They spelled it out differently. Maybe they don't do the hard sell. You know, rather than the 7.99 for a double topping large with a Coca-Cola, maybe they say, you know, we cater to you. Let us know what you want. We make special types of pizzas. Maybe they offer only ingredients from Italy, imported every day. There must be something different, something unique about it, and the pizza restaurant has to make it ultra clear so when you look at it as you're flipping through your junk mail every day, it catches your eye and you say, "Oh, yeah, you know what? I will hold on to this." Maybe I think the analogy I used last time when this question came up on an Ask Me Anything, I said one flyer comes in and it says they specialize in vegan pizza. Even if you're not a vegan, you might have a friend and you'll say, "Well, you know what? I do have a friend who's vegan, so I'll save this in case they ever come over for dinner." So you want to do the same with your voice. Come up with something that immediately can pull in a potential client, right? You provide something special. You can help them in some certain way. You can help their organization sound better. Do something. One of the most creative emails we ever received was from a voice actor who specializes in educational material, and this was right after. This is going back, if I recall, maybe 6 or 7 or 8 years ago, but the government at some point cut the budget on education a whole lot. And a lot of schools and a lot of education facilities were up in arms about it. And so this guy sent us an email like the next day, the day after this, all this was going on in the news. This voice actor sent us an email that said, "Look, you're a voiceover studio and you produce amazing educational content. And I noticed that budgets are being cut on education. And I specialize in recording educational content for voice acting, for voiceover. So I've cut my price. So when clients come to you with smaller budgets, you can hire me and you'll still end up at the end of the day with the same profit. I will take the hit. I will take that hit." He worded it very eloquently. It was said in just somehow it caught our attention in a few words. That was super clever. And we saved that demo. You need to give something real fast, some elevator pitch that prompts your prospective client to say, "Yes, I don't need them now, but I will hold on to them." Or maybe I do need this voice actor right now, and make it easy for them to know how to file you, how to label you. So when they need you, they can call upon you. So that's, I would say, is the one, two, three. And the other big point is to not do the sales thing, because we are, as a production studio, we are very, very tired of the sales thing. We receive so many demos every day. So make it more about exploring if this is a potential client for you. You know, does it make sense to work together? You offer this type of product, I offer this type of voiceover. Should we work together? Let's explore. Let's find out. Here's how I can help you. Let's see if we can work together.
I think, yeah, more than ever, it's important to think of these contacts as relationships, as potential relationships. And when you think relationally, your brain works a little bit differently as to like seeing people as human beings and speaking as a human being and not as a sales, machine. And on the subject of how to pitch ourselves, Alexander, who was also like, pour me a cup. And you were speaking some French. I don't even know, but I do have a Paris mug for you today, as it turns out. I don't know who else who's French in the house. I really wish we were all like at some big party right now, but that's okay. We're not. So we're talking. This is a common question. We're trying to, it's different for everybody. Headshot or no for business cards and website. There are strong advocates and detractors in the VO industry. We do talk about this a lot. David, what's your advice?
It depends. I think if you look like your voice sounds, or your voice sounds like you look, then headshots are fantastic, but not traditional headshots. I think photographs of you at the microphone in thing are incredibly helpful in getting hired. It shows a potential client that you are a real person. It shows them in action. It shows you in action. It's just a feel good thing rather than going to a page of just text. The page looks better and they can sort of relate to you because they can see you. Yeah, it's a great thing. But I caution you, if your voice sounds very different than sound, in other words, if you look one culture and you speak a different language like that, that could throw your potential clients off because people will stereotype based upon the way you look. So, but like I said, if you look like you sound, which is J case, yeah, get some pictures.
I want to advocate for action shots, as it as it were. And yeah, you doing your work, like you in like the Rose Garden in Portland sounds really pretty, but it doesn't really speak to you as a working voice actor. So being able to have some quality photos of you at the mic would make a big difference. And I do like to say quality, not a selfie. I'd rather you have a graphic or a logo than a selfie when I'm looking at people, and when I used to be in the studio and people would hand me business cards all the time. And it's very clear, like, this is a selfie and it's not a good selfie at that, over this is a nice logo, right? That someone drew or illustrated that they commissioned, or this is a professional photo of them at the mic, right? So these are strong delineations. Don't shortchange yourself. Always professional, whatever that means for you. Some people have logos or illustrations, some people have professional photos. The thing to not do is to have something that is subpar or where you are not looking your best if you
Yes.
are visually representing yourself.
But I want to define Siobhan. Now, first of all, I 100% agree with what Siobhan is saying, but I want to define how I would define the word professional. It doesn't mean that you need to hire a photographer and have them spend a lot of money. I do think that in most cases, if you have a friend who's pretty good at photography, they have a pretty good camera or decent, a phone that a decent camera in it, you can get some really good shots. They don't have to be glamorous. They should make it look like you actually work in the industry. And an analogy that I've used in past, and again, I'll bring up an old analogy here, is if you're hiring a plumber, right? It's nice if there's a picture of the plumber working in someone's kitchen or something. And yeah, you don't want some big plumber butt crack, showing you like, right there big on the screen, like that. That's a turnoff. But it doesn't have to be some glamour shot either with bells and whistles and all dressed up, You just want to see a real person and that this real person really works in the industry. I've come across some websites where it is clear that the voice actor hired someone or had a friend take pictures of them at the microphone. And there were 7 or 8 different shots, for example. And the voice actor has the same clothes on every picture. And you could tell that these pictures were taken in succession. I would not do that. To have different pictures with different clothes at different angles, maybe even swap out your microphone, one sitting down, one standing up, make it look like these photographs are from different days, hopefully different years. Change your hair, like cut it, back or color it for one picture, put a hat on one picture. Let a prospective client see pictures that make it appear as if you've been at this for a long time and you've gathered a bunch of different pictures for your website, because that suggests that you are experienced.
Boom. I love it. This chat is very lively. Yes, Tony, it's industry standard to have blue lipstick in your voiceover headshot. So if you don't have it, you just probably aren't going to get hired. So just like, that's you heard it from Edge. That's not true. The blue lips. You guys are funny. So there's another good question. We've got a few more minutes to handle. And I like this question because it's honest and it's like trying to figure stuff out. And I have worked with people who have asked me this thing. And I think David can give us a rundown really quick. What goes on an invoice? What does your invoice look like?
So, great question. Put yourself in the shoes of the client and think, what would they need? Because we get invoices and so often we don't get the information we need, and it's a pain in the rear end. It's a pain in the plumber's butt is what it is. Like the invoice will come in from a voice actor and it doesn't say where to send payment or how to pay. Do they want a direct payment? Do they want Venmo? Do they want to, should we pay them by credit card? Do we have to mail a check? There's no information about that. So all we have to do then is get on the phone and call them, which is just extra time. And it's a pain because then typically we'll leave a voicemail and they won't get back to us. Or still, even if they get back to us, then we have to have another phone call with someone. Give a client all of the information that you think they will need. I would go online and look at sample invoices. I bet you will find hundreds of them, hundreds of sample invoices, and figure out what your clients need. Certainly, any information they have given you that references the job. So if the client gives you the name of the script, the name of their company, a project number, their working order number, whatever they give you, everything they give you, put it on that invoice because that's how they reference it. Certainly put everything about you that you can that will make it easy for them, your business name, who to make the check payable, or how to use Venmo. And if it's a big business, they probably don't pay by Venmo. They probably will do either EFT, like an electronic fund transfer, or a check or something. Give them options, have the discussion with them up front. Also, make sure you put the price down. We get some invoices that say, yeah, here's my mailing address. We're thinking, well, can you remind us how much we have to pay? Certainly we have it in our records, but then you're just causing us extra work. So put all of that stuff. If you do collect tax, which most voice actors I've seen don't, and that's, again, I'm saying that from a friend perspective, not a legal perspective. Add tax if it's appropriate, add credits if they have, put it all down. Better to overload it and make it organized than to be lacking information. Make it easy for your client, always.
Yes, the purpose of the invoice is to get that money. So what that means is you tell them what they owe you, and people cannot pay you if you do not submit the invoice. It's also good, I think David said this, but tell them how they're going to pay you, because people get paid in different ways. Make sure that information is on the invoice, right? Like, get your dollars and make it
Yes.
easy and pretty. And
And a couple of other things that come to mind. If you're dealing with an international client, make sure you write down that you're collecting in US dollars, or have that conversation up front with the client. It's a great opportunity also when you are invoicing. It's yet another opportunity in the chain to brand yourself. So make sure your name is clear, or your business name, whatever it is that you use, and make sure you have a super duper nice thank you. It's great if you can handwrite a thank you on the invoice or something like that. You can digitally do that and still send a PDF of something. And um, but it's that's the invoice is the last step in the process, right? The client reaches out to you, then you wine and dine them, you audition, they hire you, you have the job, and then it's a shame that the process has to close with you asking for money. It's like a cold way to end the process. Maybe so a thank you goes a long way. I'll tell you a very funny story. Um, many years ago, we started sending candy with every single invoice. This is going back 30 years, 32 years when Edge Studio began. So we were not in any way invoicing digitally. So we would mail an invoice to clients, and we always put candy in the envelope. And after about 6 months of this process, a good client, called us and said, we love the candy. We love the idea, but we have to tell you that most of the time when we get the candy, it is squashed, completely squashed. And so we investigated. It ends up that the type of mailer that we were using to send the invoice and the candy went through the special roller machine at our local post office that squashed everything. So all like the chocolate bars and all the stuff, we were like, oh, they're going to love this, right? It was just like a pancake. Everything became like a fruit roll up, a chocolate roll up. And so we changed the type of candy, we changed our envelopes. You can't do that anymore. You can't really send candy, right? Not digitally. I mean, you could send a coupon for it or something like that. Oh, that's a great idea. In fact, I'll talk about that in a second. But a thank you, to the point again, will go a long way. I would encourage you to send a digital coupon for free Pez, free Starburst, free Hershey chocolate bar, just something with the invoice. Let them have a way to collect it. How much I don't know, what will that cost you? $1, $3? What a nice way to close the process with the client. My goodness. For $3, if you are more likely to get more work from that client, that is the best $3 you'll ever spend.
it would seem like David has a sweet tooth, like he wants you all to like give him candy, but I can confirm that this man does not consume sugar. So
Yes,
go
well, yeah,
figure.
I would unload it all onto my kids anyway, who consume an impressive amount of sugar.
Yes, that's, what a metaphor that your candy arrives broken or smashed with your sweet gestures
Yes.
of kindness. So I'm gonna throw one more question to you, David, and it is about my Zoom is overwhelmed by everyone's good looking features here with their cameras on. So it's like going a little slow for me to get up there, but I want to go to a question about, here you are. The booths, our home studio booths. We see DIY booths made out of moving blankets in the shape of a box. Yeah, okay. Nate. And we also see them in the closet where there is nothing behind them. So, which is better, David? What's the deal with our DIY home studio booth recording spaces?
Neither is better, neither is worse. As long as you record in a space that has two acoustic features, you are totally, totally good. One acoustic feature is to be soundproofed. The other is to have sound absorption. Soundproofing means that you have no external noise getting onto that microphone, no unwanted noise, no people walking upstairs, no loud trucks driving by, no airplane sounds getting onto your microphone. That's soundproofing, and that is a hard thing to do. You need thick walls and multiple layers of all kinds of noise shielding stuff, or you record 3 in the morning, perhaps when there's very little noise outside your window, and you have to make do. Sound absorption is putting up soft material such as baffles, sleeping bags, blankets, pillows, loading that up throughout your recording space because that soft material absorbs the sound waves and it prevents them from bouncing around and getting back onto your microphone. So you're preventing resonance and reverb and echo and things like that. As long as you have both of those items handled, sound absorption and soundproofing, you're totally fine. You could record in a desert with no walls around you. It would be fine if it wasn't for wind noise. You don't have to have an expensive, fancy booth. Lots of voice actors, lots of high-end professional voice actors don't have a real booth. They have a little, like blanket, like I said, blankets hanging around them, and they record in the middle of the night when things are quiet in their home. So just do what works for you.
I love all of this. I also want to go back to, yes, whatever works for you, and different people. Look, my New Yorkers, we move like every year. Stuff be wild. So like, you are making do the best you can. It's gonna change. It's gonna evolve. And we're all here to support each other through our own evolutions. I also wanted to add, because Nate gave me a great idea. Nate was talking about how he sends annual thank you emails with links to new and special performances to his clients. I want to offer up a tool called Bonjoro. It's an app, and what it does is it sends videos. And I send thank you videos to clients. I have a Patreon, and people support me through Patreon. And it's not it does it so that they don't get like emailed a big movie file. It's like through the app, and they can just click on it and watch a video on the internet. And I just send personal thank yous, and I tell them a little bit about what I talk about the project or whatever it is. And it's something that you could use as an engaging free instead of like $3 for candy or whatever, but like, here's my invoice and here's a special thank you. Bonjoro is free. I have a paid tier, but whatever works for you. But it's another way to keep things personal and engaged, and thinking about relational involvement with your with your clients and the people you work with. So yeah, yep, Dina, that's my girl. She's on it. There's the link to Bonjoro. I think it's an Australian company, but they're great. So, okay. Oh my gosh, look at that. Here we are. We're at the hour. That flew by. Everyone, thank you so much for all of your time and energy and your good Zoom squares on this Thursday. It's been a pleasure to see you. I'm dropping the links once again here in the chat. The IVO coupon for my newbies in the house, the mics and interfaces class on April 13th, the $25 off coaching code for any of our coaches here at Edge Studio, including some one-on-one time with Mr. David Goldberg himself, my friend and colleague here. as well as those are all our links for today. So if you're following us on social media, I am the person. If you want to speak to me, if you have questions, that's where you can find me. Edge Studio on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook. Yeah, we are so happy to spend this time with you. Thank you for being here with us. It's so good to see you. Yes, yes, we love the chat. Thank you. And we will be back. We will be back. Oh my gosh, let's celebrate Tax Day together on the 15th of April. Hopefully no one will be having a baby, of stress or whatever it is on that day. But let's celebrate that we finished our taxes together on the 15th. We will have a guest star to talk about their work in the industry. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you, Greg. It's so good to see you, John. I feel like I know y'all. Thank you, Daniel in Scotland. Thank you to my people in Uruguay. Thank you to everybody who made time to be here with us. Taxes extended to May 17th.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Yes. Yes. And
Well,
also shout out and thank you to Siobhan for rocking these Ask Me Anything calls. She is fantastic. I think you guys come on to just watch Siobhan for the hour. That's what I was thinking during the hour. I was thinking, she's rocking it. And no one cares about me. This is Siobhan is like, this is your stardom. You're great at this, Siobhan. Everyone else, fantastic questions. Really, really terrific questions. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We love these things. This is, I've said it before, I think my favorite thing I do with Edge Studio. Owning the business is great. Directing is great. I love this hour, and you guys make it great. And I appreciate your dedication being here. So look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks from now.
we look forward to 2 weeks from now. And I just want to iterate that community is really important to us here, that getting to spend this time, it's made me feel more, closer friends with David, and that I'm building, seeing you all regularly is a nice feeling of friendship for me too. So I appreciate you all very much. And thanks for making the time. And if you liked this hour, shout us out on the socials. We love to see, reciprocal positive energy out into the world. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And we'll see you very soon. And look for this on YouTube tomorrow. Mwah! Be well, my people. See you on the 15th.